Alright, hello, my name's Rooster, and this is my game project that I've been working on called Voodoo Island. So starting off with, we're on the main menu, which is like a separate level, kind of just built around a camera, just to get like a nice opening area, showing off the game a little. And yeah, anyways, let's hit play and get into some of the mechanics of the game. Yeah, so when you begin the game, you just kind of spawn in here. You have like a bunch of different ways to attack. Some of them have sounds, some of them don't. They all do kind of like different things. Just laser this guy a little. Maybe blind yourself, I don't know. Yeah, just a bunch of like different mechanics, I guess, to like give you different options to do things is mainly what I was going for. But also just kind of like to test what I could do. So let's say for like the shield, for example, I can just take that completely. I have this decoy spell that the enemy will try and attack. So if you get hit by a spell like this, you can just heal up straight away. Maybe dodge out of the way too. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Makes for like a fun little combat system. And yeah. Yes, we've got all of these. They're all rigged up and animated. Unfortunately, I am a Blender boy, and I made these in Blender. Yeah, so they were all kind of like based off of this one model, and then I just went through them, gave them like cool tattoos and stuff, changed them up a bit. Some of them are on roids, clearly, and yeah, that's just like a bunch of other stuff going on too. And then in like another save, I've also got like most of my assets that I use for the camps and things. Some of which are clearly more high effort than others, let's say. But yeah, you know, they do the job that they need to, so it is what it is. Yeah, so just one of the mechanics that I wanted to show off is kind of like my hotbar in general. So as you're like selecting between spells, as you might be able to see, it's a bit odd. Anyway, like they get highlighted for which one you have selected, and then when you use them, if we kill this guy, it spawns a little cooldown, and if you hear me mashing my mouse, it doesn't let me do it until this cooldown is complete. And I guess I'll just show you how that works, really. So if we pop out into my HUD, so first off, I've just got like these little highlighted squares. They're all kind of like layered with a bunch of things that are just set on Boolean values that I'll show you in a bit. So they're not visible most of the time, and then whenever like you push the input event on my character, like I've got this little like Boolean table. So if you press any of the spells, it sets the one that you press to true, and then all the other ones is false. Which is also like how I can keep all of my spells in one attack. And like one like button is it'll take the input from my left click, and then it'll run a check on each of these spells, and based on whichever one you've got selected on the table, it kind of just says, alright, hey, can I do this like one? No. This one? No. This one? Yeah. And then it'll run this code. Yeah, and then as for the cooldowns, so if we take this one for example, so once it runs the code and it's like, yeah, it'll set the cooldown to be true, which then spawns the text, and it starts like a little sequence down here. So on event tick, bit messy. So it goes through this branch, kind of just saying, yeah, we've started the spell. Then it goes through this loop that I've made up, which takes the cooldown time, and then it just goes down by like what I've called the timer accuracy, but it's just like how often the loop runs. So it'll go through the sequence, like reset itself, and then eventually once it's past like 0.1 on the cooldown, it will run the custom event all the way back up here on the spell, which then resets my do once node, so you can then do the spell afterwards. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So actually, one of the other things that I wanted to share was kind of like how I do all the animations that I've got. So basically, animation blueprint, kind of standard, rigged up skeleton mesh, and I use a state machine. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but it works, so I'm not going to change it. Essentially, once you start, everything's at idle, and then based on these values, it will then go and transition to do like a certain animation, say like for healing. It will then come in and it will play that, and then usually I will set that again as false, just for it to go back to idle. So like every time I do something, say like cast a spell for example, I will cast my animation blueprint, and then I will set the state to do this animation as true. It'll go ahead, it'll run the animation. I'll wait a little while, probably, it completely depends on the animation, and then I set it to false, so he goes back to idle, and he's ready to do whatever else, kind of. Yeah, so final thing that I wanted to show was my final boss, really. So he's like the complete end game, basically. Once you beat him, and you get to the Shrine of Saul, you pretty much win. So the reason why I want to show him is because I spent like quite a bit of time thinking of ways to make him smarter than all of the other bosses. And one of the ways that I've done that is, if you can see, he's actually shooting his projectiles based on where I'm going to be, rather than like just kind of where I was. And usually like he's fairly accurate with them, so it gives the player a bit more like added difficulty, I guess. And kind of just like how I've done that is, so if we ignore this mess, how I still don't know what a function is, just sue me. We essentially on his like tree, so when he's above a certain health, that's when he dictates what he's gonna do. So he's at full health basically. So we come along here, and then we, based on his velocity, like the velocity of the player, so as long as they're moving faster than like a decently fast movement speed, it will take like the physical world location of my dash location sphere, which is where I dash to every time I press space. So like in the time frame that it takes for him to shoot, that's usually where I'll end up based on like my normal movement speed. So it sets the variable of this as my location that I'm going to be. It tells him that it's going to look at the player, and then if I remember correctly, we will be looking at the player. I can't find it, but just trust me, it works. And yeah, and it's kind of it. Yeah, so I think with that, I'm probably out of time, I'd assume. So yeah, that's my project basically.